What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend Brian over there talk about comic books that have been adapted into streaming shows and movies. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like many people are saying, this week's 3 episodes of Andor was considered peak Star Wars. Someone said it was the best Star Wars television. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Brian, have you been excited to talk about this with me?
Yeah. This week kind of really solidified it for me. Like, this is the pinnacle of live action Star Wars to me. Like, I would take this show over any of the original trilogy or anything at this point. And I'm not shy about saying it.
Nice.
Please give me more adult Star Wars like this.
Yes.
That's what I want in the future with all those things they have planned. Like, I don't know, whatever Ryan Gosling movie and the Dave Filoni movies. Please give me this level of maturity in Star Wars, please.
Yes. The key word there is maturity, right? Because I think a lot of people want like dark Star Wars. They want like Sith, like decapitating people and there being like blood everywhere and maybe sex and stuff. And the show does have sex and there's some blood, but it's maturity. It's all about mature storytelling. And it's so funny because there's this like divide. I've mentioned it many times on our show, but like there are people that they don't like it. They think this is too kind of highbrow for Star Wars. And then there are people that just eat this up. And we're obviously in the eat this up camp.
Yeah. If I had to complain about anything about it, is that there is that kind of discrepancy in tone between so many Star Wars properties.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I noticed, after the 9th episode, I saw a recommendation to watch the Rebels episode, season 3, episode 18. It's called Secret Cargo, and I did watch it, and it was really good. But it's just all the different tones that are used throughout this is very jarring, I guess.
Oh yeah,
and I wish there was a greater consistency between everything.
They need more things like Andor, and Andor is this sort of like miracle of a show because I don't know. There's something about Tony Gilroy and what he's made here. I've watched a couple of interviews with him, and he was saying that he wasn't very aware of Star Wars when he got brought into Rogue One. Like Rogue One wasn't necessarily like his main baby that he had an idea for. He just kind of came in and, added to it or punched up the script. I know that like even the Andor show wasn't his initial idea. It's like the original idea for Andor was going to be like him and K2SO kind of having like little adventures and flying around space, like a much more serialized kind of show.
Yeah, that was my expectation of it when I first heard about it.
Right. And it's just this other thing. It's kind of crazy because these 3 episodes that we just watched, they like with Star Wars canon and with this show itself, it feels like everything has been kind of building up to this. And then the payoff, the execution of it was just as worthy of all the buildup.
Yes. It's funny because I feel like I feel like I haven't even experienced all of the buildup that has been done in the previous series. Before this, I had never remembered the name Gorman before, but I'm sure it's been said. I mean, I know it's been said in Rebels at least.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's been mentioned otherwise, and it was never a thought in my head before. But like, imagine hearing about that and then seeing this all play out the way it is. Yeah. I imagine that would even ratchet it up another level, really.
Yes, because they have referenced the Gorman Massacre many times. I believe the Gorman Massacre. The thing with Tarkin landing the ship on the people, that's in both canon and expanded universe. And I think him landing the ship on the people in Legends was that was the Gorman Massacre. But it's like in canon, it's like, well, he landed the ship on hundreds of people and killed them all. But then they also had this crazy fucking Imperial slaughter too.
In the exact same spot.
Yeah. They're like, this is a good place to kill French alien people. Let's do it. So, I mean, I feel like we're going to really mainly talk about episode 8, but obviously we should talk about everything.
I don't even remember what happened in 7. I really don't remember a thing because I was so focused on 8 and then 9 still kind of fresh in my memory. But I got to remember what happened.
Yes. Well, 9 is interesting because it's like almost like, oh, we're doing another story beat. It's right on the heels of 8, but it's like its own thing. 7 is really just sort of the anticipation of 8. It's like everything's building. I think one of the most significant things is we really get a feel for like Yavin. And I don't think that we mentioned this in any of our recordings, but when Cassian is stranded on that planet in the first 3 episodes of the season, that's Yavin.
Oh, it was.
Yes.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because I think here's the problem with television these days, and they even fucking admitted that they make content now to where you can kind of be on your phone and stuff, right? But Andor is not the kind of show for that. But I remember watching, I guess maybe episode 3, and the ship he's in takes off and it goes past these temples. And I remember watching it and being like, wait, is this Yavin? Like, it looks like the temples in A New Hope.
I feel like they would have called it out, and maybe they did. We didn't notice it.
Right. It's such a detailed and nuanced show that they could have done that. We didn't even notice it.
Yeah, I will admit that I was watching the 9th episode multitasking.
Yeah.
And there was a point I noticed. It was one of the points where oh no, God, maybe it was 8. I'm sorry, I think it was episode 8, where it's a close up of Cassian, and then you see this kind of concern on his face. I'm like, what did I miss? And it really was that Dedra stepped out onto that balcony, and I missed that.
Yes.
I'm glad I rewound it, but I do wonder if I hadn't missed anything else.
Yeah. Well, apparently the home base of the rebellion, we both kind of missed it. We didn't mention it, but we get a lot of it in these episodes. That's the main thing about 7 is you kind of see him and Bix on Yavin 4. There's this interesting scene, and I watched Eckhart's Ladder, this one YouTube channel, and he was saying how I think one of the rules of the show was that they actually weren't going to use the Force. And there is a person using the Force, or at least claiming to use the Force, in episode 7. There's like a Force healer.
Yeah, and I did find that sequence to be intriguing, honestly.
Yeah.
I was hoping we weren't going to get Jedis and lightsabers and all that stuff, because I feel like we don't need it. As much as that there are some of the hallmarks of Star Wars and things, they're some of the most iconic things in fiction in general.
Yeah.
I just the idea that he walked in the room and she just sensed it. She doesn't know what the hell it is. I really found that to be a great interpretation of the Force, possibly one of the best I've seen. And just the idea of that him being the messenger, just kind of foreshadowing, I guess his role in Rogue One and Rebellion in general. Right.
I mean, here's the thing. Watching these episodes, I'm like, fuck, I got to go back and watch Rogue One. Like, this is like, and here's the thing. I think that well, go ahead. I'm sorry, cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was disagreeing with you.
No, I just feel like Rogue One is going to mean so much more to me when I watch it after watching this show.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So okay. So I guess this is jumping a little ahead and spoilery, but like I saw somebody post like a comment. It's like, oh, this is why Cassian didn't kiss Jyn Erso at the end when they're getting fucking blown up.
Yeah.
Because he's waiting to finish his battle to go back to Bix. I'm like, oh fuck, man.
Yeah. I know. I have thought that too. I was like, are they going to do some kind of thing where, because I feel like the show is going to end with him walking out into the street. Because the very first time you see Cassian Andor in Rogue One, he meets with like an informant and he shoots him, and it's kind of like, oh, this isn't your dad, Star Wars, And I feel like it's going to be him like walking onto the street to go right into Rogue One. I feel like that's the way the show's going to end.
I feel like it has to end that way, yes.
Right, but then I almost feel like there might be some sort of like post-credit scene or something like that where it shows Bix and she's alive. I mean, there's two options. There's one that we see her again and she dies, or they're going to like show her be alive somewhere.
I feel like we're not going to see her again.
Okay.
I think that unfortunately she does feel like an accessory to Cassian.
Right.
And she's not going to have relevance after the fact. I don't think. I hope I'm wrong, I guess. But
yeah,
I feel like that was the last we saw. That's the last we're going to see of her.
Okay. All right. Well, kind of bringing it into like who are we going to see, who are we not going to see. One thing that they've made multiple videos on for this season is that Tony Gilroy didn't want to bring in Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine into the show. They just couldn't work it in. It was kind of too big. But I did think there's that one Imperial that he has like a little like a communication device on his face, and he was the one that was like trying to shut down Mon Mothma when she was giving her speech.
Yeah.
I did kind of think that we were going to have a scene where like he went before the Emperor, like maybe even just like the doors to the Emperor's chamber were going to open up, and he was going to be like, "Oh, I'm fucked," you know. But that didn't happen.
No, I'm glad they're not showing them. I'm so glad they're mentioning the Emperor.
Yeah,
and it kind of like enhances his presence in a way by him not being there. It's just like everyone's just fucking terrified of him.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think it's better to not show him and just have him be mentioned than to actually show. And with Vader, I think Vader would throw everything for a loop here because he's this like ultra powerful fucking badass, and I think it would just not. It would trivialize other things, I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like he's so powerful, and they've made him even more powerful in the comics and like the cartoons and stuff. Like in the new canon, Vader's just like he's this fucking like he's like the inverse of Jesus. He's just this like it's like ultra powerful slaughtering machine. And it's so funny because like you could have had this Gorman massacre, but it could have just been that you just dropped Darth Vader into the square.
Yeah, totally.
That's the way he is now.
Bring it around, just throwing the lightsaber around, just cutting people in half.
Right.
I mean, even if we're talking about like Obi-Wan, didn't he like hold back a spaceship with the Force?
Yes.
Yeah, like that would completely trivialize everything in the show, which is why he can't be in it.
Right. But see, okay, but that's actually one of the main reasons why I love the show is because there's been a couple of sequences in the show where I'm like, oh, well, if you had the Force, you could do this and you could get out of it. But it's like you can't because you don't have the Force, so you can't use the Force. So okay, all right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes because I really want to fucking talk about this. Cassian ends up on Gorman. His main point of being there, and also Willman's with him. They want to go find Dedra and they want to kill her as revenge for the massacre on Ferrix.
Well, no. Luthen assigns them this mission.
Okay, well, all right, but that's like an added bonus.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's there, and there's these great fucking sequences where he's just got this little periscope. He's looking up at the window. She's kind of coming by the window. There's multiple times where you think he's going to shoot her. Did you think he was going to kill her at any point?
Yeah. So I did hear about, how the crazy sequences in this 8th episode. I did hear there was a death beforehand. I was imagining it was going to be her. Rather than what we got. So I did think that was going to happen, but I kind of like how it played out better in reality.
Yes. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in depth. I feel like I was kind of subtly spoiled about the death in this. I mean, okay, so spoilers, guys. I saw a lot of thumbnails where it was just Cyril's face, like that scene where he's kind of like dazed in the middle of the massacre. That there's a lot of thumbnails of that shot, right? And I was like, oh, it's either that he's going to die or it's just going to be that everything is so crazy happening around him. And that's just sort of like the audience's reaction to what's happening.
Yeah.
I
agree.
So let's talk about that whole, let's just go right into 8. So 8, it's like almost the entire episode is this massacre, but there's the build up to it. And it's just like people's facial reactions and people being stressed out. Like Cassian, there's so many shots of him looking up at that periscope and he's like ready to shoot her. There's Dedra kind of like being calm and composed and then just like basically breaking down. There's this really great fucking scene where Cyril confronts her and gets physical with her too. I love that fucking scene.
I think Cyril really steals the show in this episode. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
His realizations to what he's been doing and working for. We were kind of questioning, like, does he fucking know what's going on here? And was clearly he did not.
Yes.
His whole thought was that he was trying to find people like Cassian, like what his initial obsession was. And then as he gets the information, what like the Empire is already landing mining ships here. Like, what the fuck's going on? I loved the confrontation with is it Carlo Rylands or something? The older guy with the white hair that was kind of like I don't know, funding or spearheading this revolution. Just was like, how do you not realize this? And just his expressions were so good. Then he marches in, and there's that scene where he confronts Dad. Just like, what are we doing? How long have you known? And to see the power dynamics shift between them was incredible. I mean, you don't want to see people get assaulted. It's always uncomfortable, especially to see someone overpower somebody else like that. But it was so powerful and such a reversal that it was so interesting to watch.
Yes. Really good storytelling is when you're watching something and it just feels like you are watching something that's truly happening. Like it's truly happening versus like, oh, it's staged. We're set up. We know this is going to happen next. All the character interactions, it just feels like realistic. What they say to each other, how they act with each other. That scene is very unsettling, but it's like, this is exactly how this would happen. And it's so fucking good. I was like, oh, is he going to get killed though? Because I was thinking that she might actually send someone out to kill him too, because essentially he knows like their master plan and he could now expose them.
Yeah, so I thought he was running outside to essentially kind of get the mob to disperse, to talk to one of the reporters or something like that. But he doesn't do that. And it is interesting that he essentially like changes his tune temporarily, but he's just refocused as soon as he sees Andor across the plaza. I especially also love the shot where he walks by him and, they don't see each other, but they're in the same frame. I'm like, oh, shit's going down.
Yep. But his I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go.
No, his reaction when he does make the connection and it's like Cassian, I fucking love it. He like growls and he jumps on him.
Yeah.
And it's real intense. I mean, that is one flaw of the show. Like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a flaw of the show, but just like the dynamic of this is like, he's not going to kill Cassian because he's alive in Rogue One. Mon Mothma is not going to die because she's in fucking Return of the Jedi. So like, it does kind of kill the tension in regards to that. But there's so many other characters that could get killed, that are interesting. And so they have a pretty fucking intense battle, those two.
Yeah, and I kind of loved how it ends too. It's this, he's like, it's the title of the episode. Who are you? And to me, that's going to go down as like the I can't swim line, really.
Yeah.
And just, I always think whenever a scene happens like this, I always think about the live action Street Fighter movie, which
with Raul Julia, you guys say the thing?
Yeah, honestly, like it's still a really great line and scene. It's fucking diabolical,
Right.
Even though it's a really cheesy fucking movie, but like, yeah, it's like some people will obsess over something, and then the focal point of your hatred and your obsessions doesn't even fucking know what you are. Yeah. And then I also thought it was fitting that Cassian was saved, and then Cyril was killed by.
The old man, the guy who played a Nazi in Inglourious Bastards.
Really? Oh yeah,
he looked familiar. Probably in other stuff too, but that's what I recognized him from.
That's quite an opposing role.
Reversal, right? Exactly. Yeah. He's playing one of the French that are being invaded in this one. And I mean, boy, is it like spot on? It's like, oh, here come the Nazis. The Nazis are gonna fuck up France now.
Yeah. I really also loved just all the, like, you could see, I mean, as they're setting up all these little pieces, what's going to happen. Like, they bring in the green troops, like, okay, someone's going to fire on them. They're probably going to be the Empire. And you knew exactly how it was going to play out. And you're like, it's terrifying and just incredibly despicable. And sort of brilliant in a way.
Right. And there's a couple. I mean, okay. Everyone is gushing about this. This episode, this show has been very successful this second season. There's all these YouTube thumbnails talking about how great Andor is. The filmmaking's great. The characters are great. I think Tony Gilroy opted to not use the volume for this show. And this show, we've talked about multiple times that this show just looks beautiful. But besides like special effects and making things look realistic, which is very important too, because we've seen many Star Wars shows where it just kind of feels fake, right? But besides that, there's just the idea of cinematography and making things look good. And there's many shots in this episode where it's just like stormtroopers and you just see like a storm side of their helmet. They're like watching the crowd. I fucking love this one shot where they're like walking down these stone steps and you just see the backs of them towards the crowd.
Yeah. When they're closing in on the exit point of the crowd. Absolutely. And then you see the TIE fighters roll by. You get that same sense of fear that you got from the heist episode in the first season.
Yeah.
They just fucking elevated these kind of things that they're just inconsequential in the other movies, really. They're just like, oh, they're fucking stormtroopers, whatever, you know?
Right.
But like, I was like, oh shit, there's stormtroopers there.
Right. It's so good. It shows the difference of like, here's the material you get to work with. How you work with it is what makes the difference. You know, because we've watched so many fucking goofy things on Disney Plus. This is like serious, well done filmmaking. You know, this is kind of jumping ahead, but when the fucking K2 droids or whatever, I think they're called K2 droids, right? The Imperial things. That there's this one shot of them coming out of the building, and that's fucking great. It's like it's evocative of like when the walkers come out on Hoth. And it's like, it's just like quiet and they're coming, like they just kind of emerge from the Imperial base or whatever, the command base. And it's just so creepy because they're quiet, but they're huge.
Yeah.
And boy, do
they throw shit.
Yes. One of my pet peeves that I hate in our genre fiction stuff that we watch is when a character who can like stab people, shoot people, but they just kind of like hit someone to the side. That happens all the fucking time. I hate that. Yeah. But in this, they do that and the people just fucking die. Like,
yes.
They're just fucking flinging them like rag dolls.
I did really appreciate the scene where they walked out there, but I actually think I preferred when Cyril first arrives and he's kind of ushered to that room and it's just fucking dead silent. He sees these 6 droids sitting there and it's like, oh fuck, what is going on?
Yeah.
The silence in that movement was deafening.
Chilling, yes. And here's the thing: there's this one scene that I'm haunted by. I can clearly see it in my eyes. Is you have that one Gorman woman who's one of the main people in the Resistance, and I guess she's got her husband or her boyfriend.
Well, that's the daughter, I think, isn't it? That's Carlo's daughter.
I think so.
Or something.
Yeah. And so the guy she's with gets shot. You're like, okay, this guy's gonna die. And even one of the droids is like walking towards him. I thought it was just gonna like step on his head or like crush him or whatever. But it goes past him and it swats her, and you watch her fly through the air, and then you see her land, and just to like it like holds on her face that she's dead. I'm haunted by that.
100% dead. Yes.
Right. Oh God, so fucking good. I mean, there's so much to fucking talk about. Like, even the guy that they kind of bring in, that he's like an Imperial and he's in charge. He's got like a scar on the side of his face.
Yeah.
You know, on Eckhart's Ladder, he was kind of pointing out there's different levels of evil in this show. Like, there's the evil where you're kind of pursuing power. It's kind of like Dedra and Krennic and stuff. Then this guy was like pure evil, where he's just like, okay, let's set up this massacre of people. And he was just like ready to do it.
That wasn't the guy. That was the guy with the scar on his face. He was the one that led the troops out there. You're talking about the guy that sent them out there, even though he's the one that said like, but these guys are green. Like we can't do that. And it's like, yeah, we know they're soldiers. Like, like he fully knew what was going down there.
Right. Exactly. And he even has a great line too with Dedra where he says like, "I'm just the trigger, you're the finger."
Yeah,
which I guess that could kind of be kind of weird.
Yeah, it implies that he's the weapon essentially.
Right.
And then she's just kind of giving the approval, and this is his deal.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so much to fucking talk about. Like, Willman, I was pretty sure he was going to die in this.
I thought so too. Yep. And he gets kind of fucked up, I'd say.
He does, and it's kind of cool because all this sets up Rogue One. So because Cassian and him are trying to escape. K2SO is like coming after them. Then that one fucking guy who accidentally shot what's her name? Yeah, right. He's the one that crashes the truck into K2SO.
Yes, he got a little redemption. That was nice.
Yeah. I thought that Mon Mothma's sister was at Gorman, and I thought she actually got killed, but it was just another blonde woman.
Yeah, you would think she would have been there because she's the one. I mean, I guess she left after Cinta died, essentially.
Yeah.
Because and then that was the previous arc too, so that was like a year earlier.
A year ago. Yeah.
So yeah, no, she wasn't there, but I could see why you'd think that because she kind of got them all started, really.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of her, though, I wanted you to answer something for me. There's a scene where she's on Yavin 4, and she's having all the people that are there put their weapons down for inspection, and then she finds a blaster, and she's like, "Whose blaster is this? What the fuck is the significance of that? What is that?"
No idea.
Okay. Like what I was thinking was that maybe that was Cinta's blaster that she kept, and the guy took it. That's all I could think.
I was either thinking that it was that, or perhaps it was the blaster that killed her, and she was wondering if that guy was there.
Oh. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, maybe you're right. Okay. So I'm just trying to think what else with the Gorman massacre. I mean, they really show that the K2SO droids are like super powerful. And you'd think kind of like, well, why doesn't the Empire just make a whole bunch of those and just wipe everybody out?
Yeah.
But they must be like real difficult to make or something.
Yeah, I imagine it's something like that. It could also just be that they didn't exist in the original trilogy, so they have to make them seem ultra scarce. Because why haven't they been seen other than Rogue One?
Right. Really good point. So let's talk about the episode 9 because that's really worthy of discussion too.
Yes.
Let's see. What's interesting with that episode is that you have all these different factions of the rebellion, but they're not really all cohesive yet. Rogue One is what kind of makes them all cohesive. And there's the idea that there's someone that's going to betray them in Bail Organa's group. And I thought that was really intriguing because when we look at like Bail Organa and Leia and stuff, they're always like seen as like so noble, but essentially they've been infiltrated by an Imperial.
Yeah. So Luthen tells Mon that, they heard that someone infiltrated there. And then when Mon meets Bail later, he's like, "Do you know these people?" He's like, "No, I don't." So that, I mean, I don't think that that's any kind of mark on Bail, essentially.
No.
It's just that the Empire is aware of who to watch. Obviously, they're putting bugs in people's offices. But, I think that's essentially what it was, is that they have to blindly trust people in order to make these things work. And sometimes it's going to backfire on you.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so much tension. We find out that Mon Mothma they've been listening to her, just like you said. There's like at least one recording device in her place. Then the guy that was working with her, turns out he is actually working with Luthen too, like her secretary or like her assistant.
Yeah. And he is also, I don't know if he's appeared otherwise, but he was also in the episode in Rebels too that I watched. So
okay.
Thing there.
That's cool.
So yeah, and I distinctly remember the scene where he meets Luthen, and I guess essentially recruits him too. So it was nice to see that kind of pay off like that.
Yeah, and he's really important for getting Mon Mothma out of that place, out of the Senate. A couple of other things. So we've seen the Senate building a bunch of times. Like it goes all the way back to episode 1. It's in all the prequels, but they're able to make it seem like a tangible, real place. Like they when they filmed this, they must have filmed it in some kind of real life location and just added a lot of CGI around it. But like it feels like a real place that you can walk to versus just a sort of like video game non-tangible location.
Yeah, I agree.
I just really love the tension. Her speech is like so like, hey, this is the world you live in right now.
Yeah. I was kind of horrified at how the Imperials were spinning Gorman, and just how they just hammered on that, it was a Gorman insurrection, and it was nothing to do with them there, and how people were believing it. There were people believing it, and then people that just don't. They're just too afraid to speak up.
Right.
And that's why that they're talking about. Mon talks with Bail about, like, you need to go. You need to be a part of the rebellion here. I'm going to stay here and buy you time. I really like those kind of details there, and we know that those players have to be where they are, and this is getting them there. But I like the weight that how they decided to tell us that. Effectively.
Yeah, right. And Luthen is yet another character where they're like, Luthen needs to go to Yavin, but he's like, Yavin isn't for me,
Yeah, because he's not there, and so they had to find a way for him to not be there.
Right. There's one thing that we forgot to mention when we were talking about the Gorman Massacre. The way they end episode 8 is perfect too, where they're showing the Imperial news and they're showing Cyril's mom. That's the last shot of Cyril's
mom. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They immediately made me feel sympathetic to the most evil woman in the galaxy.
Right. It's so fucking good, so good, and it is that kind of spin because they have all those centers. That's one of the things I like from the prequels is like when it's someone's turn to talk, they kind of like come away from their little collective pods and they come up and they're like, "I want to talk now." And I just like how everyone's like, "Oh God, these heroes! The stormtroopers were heroes. They took care of the Gorman people who were violent." And then Mon Mothma basically says something along the lines of, "Once we get rid of truth, it's the monster that speaks the loudest." And it's just so funny because she's like, the monster that speaks the loudest, and you're like, Donald Trump. Oh, no. Emperor Palpatine. Right. But that's the fucking world we live in. And they are clearly making that connection.
I can't, I don't know how much more I can take of all these horrible TV shows. I mean, these amazing TV shows with these horrible political and landscapes I can take that are so close to real life.
Yep.
In a row.
Right. Oh boy, I can't wait to go back to The Boys, where essentially the soups have taken over. Homelander's in charge of the country. Yeah. No, let's keep going with this episode though, because like, here's the funny thing. We kind of cover these broad strokes when we talk about this stuff, but there's so many small nuanced things that are so fucking good. Like there's a part where Mon Mothma and Cassian run into each other, and then he says he has friends in all places or something, or what's the line? Yeah, right. And then it kind of clicks for her, and then she's not trusting him at first, and then he kind of explains the logic of why she should trust him. Just little interactions like that are so fucking good.
Yeah, I also like that, Luthen told her not to trust Bail's soldiers. He said, I have a guy that I know I can trust. And, he tells her to approach him, I believe. But she's hesitant. Like, she sees him and she keeps walking at first. And then Cassian has to kind of like force out that line. Because he was supposed to respond with that, but he had to say it out loud to get her to involved in the situation. Yeah,
and it all it does is just make his character much more interesting and have like so much charisma. Like I can't tell you how much they've made this character from Rogue One. Like, he was like 2 dimensions in Rogue One, and now he's like 6 dimensions in the show.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Rogue One, he's kind of like a knockoff Han Solo in a way, but like he might be better now.
He's 1,000 times better. This Rogue One is going to hit so hard when he fucking dies at the end of Rogue One now. So I'm just trying to think what else. So one thing that's interesting is that Mon Mothma's speech is all about the truth and how when you get rid of like the truth, it's basically whoever speaks the loudest. And then when she goes to be taken off the planet, extracted, even the rebels want to change the truth. They want to make it to that it's this big fancy rescue versus Cassian smuggling her out.
Yes, yeah, and that's where the rebels thing comes in. Is it that she's kind of escorted by a bunch of like Y-wings and this cruiser, and then the Empire is following them, and then the Ghost has to kind of intervene and get her out of the situation. They were there to refuel the ships, and then the Empire attacked, and they had to get her to there. And you actually see the speech that she delivers, which is not as good as the or as long as the one in the Senate, but she gives the speech that they mention they want her to give to all these kind of
factions,
other rebel groups, factions. Yeah.
You're right. And see, that's the beauty of this too. And boy, do I sound like a fucking broken record. But like, you have all these different factions, and they all, like, you see the reasoning behind them, and you kind of understand them. You know, when you watch Star Wars, there's these sort of disparate groups just kind of all huddled together, and there's all these different aliens and stuff. When you see the rebellion, it's like a hodgepodge. But this, it's like you see what each little piece is, and that they're all kind of coming together, and how difficult it would be to actually bring them together.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this episode too, we see Bix leave. We kind of mentioned her at the beginning of our recording, but like when he woke up in the bed and it was just him by himself, you're like, she's gone, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I do find it a little kind of mixed and confusing. The thought behind her leaving. It's like, oh, I'm gonna leave so that you'll stay in the rebellion that you wanted to leave.
Right.
I guess ultimately saying, like, I'm taking away the thing that you want, so you'll do this thing that you know you have to do, I guess. But it's a little mixed, I guess, motivation-wise. Like, it seems a little, doesn't fully make sense to me.
No, it doesn't. It's kind of like you saying to your wife, you're like, all right, listen, you go into this underground revolutionary force where you're probably going to get brutally killed or tortured. I'm going to stay home and play with my Transformers, but I'm doing this so that you will go be in the resistance. Okay.
Yeah.
See you later. Yeah. And then that's the thing about these episodes. It was like a fucking marathon because there's so many points where it's like, okay, that could be the end of the episode. That's spot on. That's perfect. And 8 ends perfectly with the mom. But then this episode ends perfectly too, because Bix leaves. Could have easily been the last shot of her like closing her eyes, and then that could have been the end of the episode. We jumped to a year later. Could have easily been ended the episode where like Cassian's like on the tarmac in Yavin 4, and he just looks kind of lost. A year later, but no, they're like, the K2SO droid is gonna be turned on. Let's see what happens, and then he's got the gun pointed at him. And you hear fucking Alan Tudyk's voice. He's pumping with both dicks right now. It's perfect. You know?
Oh, it's a nice callback. Yes. Yeah, it was great. Although I guess part of me was kind of thinking that they were going to somehow use that BMO droid or whatever, or B2, whatever the droid.
Oh, yeah, that little stuttering droid.
Yeah. That was somehow going to be incorporated into them turning K2SO into K2SO. But I guess not.
Yeah, I feel like that droid. I think that the inclusion of him is just basically be like, look, there's droids. We're in Star Wars, because there's not a lot of droid stuff in this show in general. He kind of fills that role, and then of course he's the one that projects. I can't remember her name, but Marva. Thank you, Brian. You are so good at fucking remembering detail.
Every time we record, I have a screen up of all the names because I cannot fucking remember them. Star Wars is a show that I highly recommend always watching with subtitles, just so you can see the names and understand how they're spelled and pronounced.
Good call. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that, because that makes us go a lot better. I mean, here's the thing. There's so much to talk about, but like, do you have other specific things you want to focus on with these 3 episodes?
I think we covered a lot of what I did want to talk about. I can't really think of anything else here. I'm really sad that this show is over. You know,
one more week,
and that's it. Like it's been. I greatly appreciate them dropping 3 episodes at a time. I know we were kind of questioning it first, but it makes perfect fucking sense as that those 3 little arcs. It's just a better way to watch them all. Mm-hmm. And then how to give you that space to breathe in between. What sucks is that it's over. It's a month and it's fucking over now. You know,
right?
That's it. There cannot be anything else.
Right.
So please, Star Wars, give us more with this tone, please.
Yeah, I don't know if they're capable of doing that. I don't know. I think that this is just some kind of fluke. This is a glitch in the Matrix. Like somehow this guy had this idea to elaborate on this story, and Disney just gave him the money. And I don't know if there's a person out there that has a vision like this where it'll be something else that's mature and interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
so.
think one of the earlier episodes, I asked you the question, what do you think is the minimum required amount of watching to appreciate the show?
You did say
I think just the fact that I think that there is a minimum requirement to appreciating the show is just as the fact that why it can't be reproduced. You have to have something to build upon in order to do this. So this was to fill in some gaps that you had about from existing properties here. So we don't have that foundation. I mean, maybe we do. I don't know. Maybe they'll find something else to fill in the gaps with. But I think that's why this show is special, is because it is building upon something that was so good, and then there was that little hole there. There needs to be something else first before we can fill in the hole that this is doing right now.
Yes, and who better to fill in that hole than Alan Tudyk? There you go.
All right, we got to end it on that because nothing's going to top that.
All right. Well, Brian, do you still have it in you to do Thunderbolts after this too?
I mean, I'm not as enthusiastic now because this is what I really wanted to talk about. But yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, guys, Brian and I are popping out of this. We're going to go do a recording on Thunderbolts. We will be back here next week to talk about Andor for the finale of one of the most beloved shows that we've had since we've started this channel. So, guys, thank you for watching. If this is your first time, make sure that you subscribe. Leave some notes in the comments so you know you are here, and we'll see you guys.